It was a quiet evening when it all started. The kind of evening that slipped into the house unnoticed, where the hum of the refrigerator and the soft ticking of the clock on the wall were the only sounds. We just finished dinner. Another one of those nights where I found myself slaving over a hot stove, chopping vegetables, stirring sauces, making sure everything was just right. "John, I'm not your cook," Claire said, her voice breaking through the silence as she pushed her plate away. I looked at her, surprised. We'd been married for over a decade, and this wasn't the first time she grumbled about the routine of dinner or the never-ending cycle of housework. But tonight, something in her tone was different. "I didn't say you were," I replied, trying to keep my voice even, though the tension in her words was palpable. "You don't have to," she snapped, her eyes flashing with a mix of frustration and something else, something I couldn't quite place. "You never notice, John. You never notice that I've been doing the same thing for years. I'm not your fucking cook." Her words hung in the air, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. I felt a pang of guilt, a nagging sense that maybe she was right. Maybe I had taken her for granted, assuming she would always be there to fill the role I'd given her. But that wasn't it, was it? It wasn't about taking her for granted. It was about something deeper. She stood up abruptly, pushing her chair back with a loud scrape against the floor. "I'm tired, John. I'm tired of being the one who keeps everything together while you just go to work and come home expecting a warm meal every night. I'm not your fucking cook." The words hit harder than I expected. I'd always prided myself on providing for her, on being the breadwinner. Sure, we had our rough patches, but who didn't? I didn't think it was too much to ask that she take care of the house, to make sure dinner was ready when I got home. That's what she'd always done, after all. But something shifted in me that night. Maybe it was a tired look in her eyes, or the frustration in her voice. Or maybe it was a realization that I hadn't really been paying attention to her needs beyond the surface level. I wasn't sure, but I knew one thing. I couldn't just sit back and let her fume. I had to do something. "I'll hire someone," I said before I could think better of it. Claire froze, her back still turned to me. For a long moment, she didn't say anything. I waited, unsure what to expect. "You'll hire someone?" she asked, her voice low, almost mocking. "Yeah," I said, the words coming out faster than I intended. "I'll hire a chef, someone who can take over the cooking, so you don't have to do it anymore. You won't have to worry about it." Claire turned slowly, her eyes narrowing. "So that's your solution? You're just going to hire some young girl to do it instead of me?" I flinched at the way she phrased it. Young girl. The implication was there, and it stung more than I liked to admit, but I couldn't take it back now. The idea had been planted, and I knew deep down I just wanted to fix things. Maybe I was being rash. Maybe I wasn't thinking it through, but I was frustrated too. I didn't want to fight with her anymore. I wanted peace. "I'm just trying to help, Claire," I said, try and keep my tone calm. "You've been saying for a while now that you're tired of this, so I'm offering a solution. It's not like I'm trying to replace you. I just don't want you to feel like this is the only thing you're good for." For a moment, I thought she might cry. Her shoulders shook slightly, and I could see the pain in her eyes. But then she straightened, her jaw clenched. "Fine," she said through gritted teeth. "Fine. Hire whoever you want. But don't expect me to sit back and smile while some young thing takes over the role I've been playing for years." And just like that, the conversation ended. She stormed out of the room, and I was left sitting at the table, unsure what I had just started. I didn't know it then, but I had just made the first step into a much larger mess than I could have imagined. A few days later, I really did hire someone, a young woman named Sophia. She was energetic, confident, with bright eyes and slender hands that moved gracefully across knives and pans. I noticed how her presence seemed to liven up the kitchen. She was a professional, no doubt, and I felt like I had made the right decision. But what I didn't expect was how much this would affect the dynamic between Claire and me. Claire couldn't hide her jealousy. Every time I came home and saw how Sophia and I were talking, how she'd send me weekly menus or suggest new recipes, I saw the way Claire's eyes darkened. I tried to brush it off, to act like nothing was changing, but I knew she noticed, and deep down, I knew this wasn't just about cooking anymore. Soon, Claire started to pick at everything. Little things at first. She would snap at me over small details, things that normally wouldn't bother her. But the tension was building, and I could feel it thick in the air. The once easy conversations between us were replaced with silence or short, biting exchanges. One evening, as I walked into the house after work, I heard her voice raise in anger. "You seriously hired her? Are you kidding me, John?" Claire's words cut through the silence like a knife. I had just walked through the door, my coat still on, and before I could even respond, she continued. "You invited some young girl into our house to replace me, and you didn't even think to ask how I'd feel about it." I hesitated, trying to formulate an answer, but there was no way to undo what had been done. I just thought it would make things easier for both of us. I said, my voice almost pleading, "You've been saying you're tired, and I didn't want you to feel overwhelmed anymore. It's not about replacing you, Claire. It's about helping." Claire shook her head, her eyes narrow with fury. "Helping? Or is it because you enjoy her company more than mine? Maybe I'm just the old, tired housewife, and she's the fresh, vibrant thing you can look at." Her words struck deeper than I was ready for. I didn't know how to respond. Was that what this was? Was I enjoying Sophia's company more than Claire's? I didn't think so, but the doubt was creeping in. "She's just doing her job. Claire, it's not like that. You're overreacting." "Overreacting?" Her voice wavered. "You think I'm overreacting? After all these years, after everything I've done for you and you..." She broke off, throwing her hands up in the air. "I never thought you'd treat me like this." I stood there, dumbfounded, not knowing how to fix this. The more I tried to explain myself, the worse it seemed to get. I couldn't seem to find the words to ease the pain she was feeling, and worse still, I could feel a growing sense of guilt. I had tried to help her, but it felt like I had only made everything worse. As the weeks went on, things between Claire and I grew colder. She stopped speaking to me as much. The once warm, affectionate conversations had turned into clipped responses, and sometimes silence was the loudest thing between us. Every time I glanced at her, I felt this unbearable distance growing. And Sophia? She was always there in the kitchen, smiling when I came home, preparing meals with such skill and precision. There was a chemistry between us, something subtle, unspoken, but Claire saw it. It was hard to miss how she would glare at me when Sophia was around. It wasn't subtle. It was there every time. Her jealousy had taken root, and it twisted something in me. There were moments when I wanted to comfort her, to tell her how much I still loved her, but it didn't seem to matter. She was too far gone in her hurt and resentment, and I was too lost in the mess I had created. One night, after a particularly harsh argument, Claire came to me, her face pale and tired. "I shouldn't have said what I said," she muttered, almost apologetically. "But now, it's too late. I've ruined everything. You've hired someone to replace me, and all I've done is push you further away." I didn't know what to say to that. The truth was, she wasn't wrong. I had made a decision without thinking about the consequences. And now, everything had spiraled into something I hadn't expected. I had become part of the problem, not the solution. But it wasn't just about Sophia anymore. It wasn't about cooking, either. It was about what happened to us, how we had gotten so lost in our roles, in our frustrations, that we had forgotten why we were.